How've the rookies been getting acclimated? Anton and Tank and Parker, guys like that?
Yeah, they've done a good job. We kind of hit the ground running with those guys. We kind of give them a week to get their feet under them a little bit, and then we just start rolling. We get back into the installs. And it's really a 3-week process through OTAs of installing with those guys. So they hear the same thing that the vets have heard a couple times now, getting in the install. And then we get a chance. Their time restrictions are different than the vets, so we get extra time with those guys in the afternoon. So we have rookie time where they get just that group with their position coach for 2-3 hours. Could be walkthroughs, could be meetings. It's pretty unlimited. So that they get a chance to kind of settle in a little bit, hear it from their position coach, and then hear it again as we install it and go through it and learn from the vets.
Wide receiver depth, we obviously know 1 through 4. It's pretty self-explanatory, but past that, Tim Jones was obviously the 5th wide receiver a year ago.
Yep.
How do you see that 5th, 6th spot with some of the added competition you brought in?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is there is added competition. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of young talent. There's guys that we had last year that we expect to take a step forward and push for that opportunity. And that opportunity comes down to a number of different things based on, their versatility within the offense or within the scheme. So if somebody goes down, they can take any spot potentially to sometimes it's a special teams role. I mean, if everybody stays healthy, there's a possibility that player plays 5, 6, 7 plays on offense. So, who contributes the most in the 15 to 20 plays of special teams in a game and who gets that jersey on game day. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And then ideally, everybody stays healthy. And so you can just do what's best for the team each week as you need to.
Who are some of the ones that you're seeing maybe emerge?
Well, I think the guys that have taken the step forward from last year, the Seth Williams, Kendrick Pryor, Kevin Austin, those guys have Jalen Moore was taking that step as well before his injury set him back. And then the young guys, they've all kind of done a good job of they learned. And obviously Jacob Harris, having experience, having played, stepping into that role as well.
Brendan Strange, how much growth have you seen from him since rookie minicamp to now, and how excited are you for him to put the pads on for training camp?
Yeah, a lot. In terms of his knowledge of the system and getting comfortable, being able to align, being able to execute a multitude of responsibilities, you've seen a lot of growth from the time he got here, which is to be expected. But he's been very professional in his approach. And then obviously nothing until the pads truly come on of what he's capable of doing. So that's kind of the next step in his evolution as a player and us figuring out what he can contribute to us.
With that same position group, with Evan out, Garrett Prince sort of kind of rises up a little bit. What have you sort of seen from him last year and then hitting into this year, obviously now?
Yeah, Garrett's got a really good skill set. Something we're excited to see, how that translates to whatever it is, the situation in the game. But we do think he can contribute to this offense if it all works out for him. There's always kind of a jockeying of personnel groupings and how guys play, how guys fit certain schemes. And like I said, when you kind of get into the back end of a room, whether it's, tight end 3-4, receiver 5-6, a lot of times special teams comes into play for that. And that, tight end 4 versus wide receiver 5 versus running back 4, sometimes that's a puzzle piece that's determined by special teams. So sometimes a guy may be running back 4 because he's better than wide receiver 5 in special teams, whatever that may be. So there's kind of the give and take, and then it's who's available week to week of who gets that jersey on Sundays.
How is Parrish adjusting to full-time life as a fullback?
Yeah, I think it's a little different. I think the playbook's a little different. I think we're not as much of a reactionary group as the defense is. So I think he's kind of getting that out of his system a little bit, just playing on our side of the ball necessarily. So the playbook's a little different for him. It's an adjustment for him, but he's done a good job. He approaches it the right way. He's eager, he's hungry, he spends extra time working. So it's just continuing to progress and get better at it.
When you look at where the offensive line was at this time a year ago, okay, you don't have Juwan anymore, and Cam's going to be out for whatever amount he's going to be out. Is it possible by middle of the year that you could get to a place where the offensive line might even be stronger than it was a year ago?
We like to think so. Obviously everybody having familiarity in the system, familiarity with one another, we expect everybody to take that next step in terms of their progression and getting better at what we're asking them to do. But, I think the versatility of the guys in the room is really big for us. We have a lot of guys that can play multiple spots. And so whoever's available, however everything plays out moving into it, I think we can put together a pretty good combination and then be flexible in that combination. But we're very confident in where that group can go.
When Cam comes back, do you look at that situation as being awkward, or do you look at it as a good problem to have?
A great problem to have. depending on the time frame they give us with Cam or however that falls, we'll have a plan, a little bit firmer plan moving forward into that. Until then, we're just preparing every single day for everybody to be the best at whatever position we're asking them to play that day. It may be different day to day based on who they are. But again, we like to cross-train our guys so they're available for any spot at any time.
Walker Little's got some snaps at left guard in this camp. How does he feel comfortable there yet? Or how do you judge whether how easy a transition that is?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that can do a lot of things. He's played both tackle spots. He's played left guard since we've been here for us in spots. And I think that's something he's settled into. And part of it, that group is so close. If you ever got the chance to sit in an offensive line room, it's a great place to be. It's a different place to be. But those guys get along. Those guys get along so well that they mesh well together, and they all understand the big picture of what we're trying to do. So whether they do it or not, we feel like those guys are pretty interchangeable.
What's your impression on Nathan now that you've seen him in workouts?
Nathan Rourke?
Yeah.
Nathan's done a good job. He's very diligent in his approach. He throws a good ball. He's just a guy that's continued to get better and master the system. The quarterbacks, sometimes they'll see things they want to get to, but a lot of times you can't get to those certain things because of who's around you. You got to play to the speed of everybody around you. And we continue to push the guys on the outside to learn things, but you kind of, as a quarterback, sometimes you're dealing with the group around you. So as he plays with the younger guys around him, sometimes maybe you can't adjust as quickly as Trevor and the ones adjust to certain things. So there's just kind of that growth. And sometimes we're just calling plays right now. We call plays, the defense calls plays. We haven't schemed each other up. We're not trying to attack certain things. So we may call a play that's not built for this coverage, and we expect our quarterback to go get a completion. So that's part of the offseason. That's part of training camp and how we deal with it. When we get into attacking opponents, we can get a little more specific, and then you can really see the quarterbacks thrive. But right now it's, we give you a play, and you kind of go make it work for us.
Last year, there were a lot of fourth down tries in plus territory. Now you got Brandon McManus, big old leg. How does that kind of impact the thought process, as I read in your mind, on kicking some of those field goals?
Yeah, everything's a case-by-case situation. I mean, there's times where you go into a game based on weather, based on the opponent, the other team's offense, whatever it may be. Maybe our kick line is the 35 as opposed to the 32. So now as we get into that area, we're more willing to attack on fourth down as opposed to settling for a field goal opportunity. So there's a lot of different factors that come into play there, but obviously, with Brandon's history and the leg that he has, maybe that kick line gets a little extended. Maybe there are times where you don't have to be as aggressive in going for it on fourth down, but I would say it's more case by case.
Press, how much better do you feel right now than maybe this time last year, just knowing exactly what Trevor likes? Was that part of the offseason, trying to figure that out?
Yeah, that's obviously a big thing. I mean, I told Trevor in the exit interview, we build this offense for him. We build game plans for Trevor, and then we piece everybody around him based on what they do really well. And so obviously last year it was a little bit of, we had a feel for where he was at this time last year, but we didn't really know. And then kind of each season, and again, this season will be different than it was last season. Each season you kind of take a certain turn based on who you are and what you're doing well and how teams are playing you. So I don't expect, the pivots we had last season to be the same as we had this season, but there's certain things you settle into. Either he sees really well, our personnel matches pretty well with these types of concepts, and you just kind of go down that rabbit hole. But now the conversations with Trevor are much further along than they were last year in terms of he knows what he likes, he knows how he wants to attack people, how people try to attack us.
You had 3 guys that had career years last year, all coming back, obviously. But you had Calvin, you have a lot of offensive options, it looks like. Do you guys get as detailed to be like, we want this many targets for these kinds of positions? I know it can't always fall that way, but it's going to be hard for those guys to almost do what they did.
Yeah, no, certainly. That's a real thing. I know everybody wants an opportunity to impact the game. And so we certainly go into it in an ideal game. We've talked to all those guys individually. We'll talk to them as a group at certain times, but all those guys are committed to winning. So all those guys are willing to do whatever it takes to help our team take the next step in kind of our journey here. Along the way, they want to have an impact on the game. And so they want touches, targets, and opportunity to make plays. And so we understand that. And I think the biggest thing is just communication, of telling them maybe it's week to week, hey, this matchup aligns really well for you. Here's what we're trying to get to. But they understand, too, the flow of the game dictates where you go with it. So in the first quarter, you may have thought you were going to attack a team this way. They're playing you that way. We need to go do this in the second quarter, moving on in the game. So it's being transparent, it's being open with those guys, making sure you kind of state a vision and a role for them. And then the type of people we have, they buy into that pretty well.
Is Tank ahead of schedule from where you thought he would be? And maybe how will that differentiate how you went into the season thinking reps would be divided at running back?
Yeah, I don't know if we put, kind of a ceiling or a cap on where any of these guys are going to be. We kind of just approach it day to day, meet them where they are, and help them to get better every day. Tank's certainly coming here with a high level of professionalism, which has been impressive. He's very locked in on his coaching points. He's able to recite things back. I think that rookie time I mentioned earlier has been very beneficial for him. He's taken advantage of it. So we're excited where he is. We'll see where he goes as he comes back, obviously through this week and then training camp and where we're at week 1.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. See you guys in the new building.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, right?
Last one here.
Ball security drill now.
That's your favorite thing on the field, isn't it? Yeah, we can tell.
Coach Bugner was talking the other day about how much he expects Clavon to elevate his game, and I'm just wondering, what have you been seeing from him in OTAs and just throughout this off-season process that leads you to think that that might happen?
Just the growth in the scheme and being able to go out there, and he's been running with the ones, and he's doing a good job. He's a guy that mentally he can handle it, and physically he's starting to come around. You're starting to see explosiveness, and just having a good camp.
What about in terms of just his demeanor? Are you seeing something different than what you saw last year?
It's really not different. It's just his confidence. He's always been a confident guy, and it's just starting to show. He knows where he's supposed to be. He's able to get there quickly, and he's just playing with a lot of confidence right now.
How much do you anticipate that he thinks he's going to get more chances, more snaps because of who you lost in free agency, or may lose if Smoot doesn't come back?
Well, with that room, there's a lot of competition in there, and generally you rotate guys, and he'll be one of the guys that's going to be in a rotation, so he'll get his share of reps.
What stripes has Devin Lloyd made?
Devin's the same way. You look at him, he's been here through when the other vets were let go, and he's really, I wouldn't say taking his game to another level, but you can see the increase. He's playing faster out there than he was when the vets were here. And he's just a guy that he's seen it before. It's starting to slow down for him. He's anticipating, and he's playing real well for us right now.
Antonio Johnson's a guy who's gotten a handful of reps all over the defense and the slot at safety. How much growth have you seen from him?
With Antonio, it's just a matter of finding he can do a lot of things, just finding what we want him to do. So we're trying him at multiple positions. He's able to play the nickel, play safety, just whatever package we want to put him in or whatever he's able to handle. He has a skill set to do that, and we're just excited about it and continue to see him progress through camp. And once we get the pads on, see how it goes, and just go from there.
Back to Devin, what was the reasoning behind having him and Chad stay when the rest of the veterans were cut loose?
Both those guys are young players. They're in year 1, and this is their next year, so you really want them to get as many hours on the field as you can, see the things over and over again, so now when they see it, they're able to anticipate it and understand what they're supposed to do, and both those guys are accepting that, and they're showing their leadership when other guys in that room aren't here, so it's good.
Jeremiah Ledbetter is a guy you've been with for a while, one of the more athletic guys in that room. I don't think you get asked about him very much. What sort of growth have you seen from him? Do you think he can earn a spot in your rotation?
When you go, we have been together for a while. The athleticism, and you see the focus just kind of dial in. And even dating back to last year in the preseason games, you saw him play real well, and then the injury happened. So being able to bring him back and be able to get another chance to work with him has been real good for us. And he's a guy that can play multiple spots on our line, and it's always good to have guys that can do multiple things.
health update in terms of Ventrell, his progress. Will he be ready for training camp? And then I've seen Christian Braswell working off to the side. Wasn't sure exactly what that was.
I think right now that's up to Fergie, and I think he has a plan for him, and whenever they're ready to go, we'll ready to put hands on them.
Is this defense the way it's stacked up right now, personnel-wise, continuity of it, more the vision that you had when you walked in this building a year ago, and maybe you weren't allowed to do that for various reasons, injuries, play, young guys a year ago?
Well, it's always you have a vision of how the team's gonna look, and you want it to look that way. But you know, the hand you're dealt, that's the hand you play. And we're just gonna go out there and whatever guys we have, we're gonna try to put them in the best position for them to be successful. And whoever it is, that's how we do it.
Gregory Jr. made the jump to the NFL from a small school last year, kind of struggled a little bit in the preseason. How much growth have you seen from him? Do you think he's ready to compete this year?
It's really good. That position, we have a bunch of guys that are, you know, right now just trying to feel their way through it. And Greg, you know, he was with us last year, and this year you can see, I asked him a question in a meeting this morning. He snapped the answer right back at me. So you can see the growth and the maturity in him, and, you know, it'll translate onto the field.
What went into the decision to not have Trayvon be a part of this? What had he done to sort of earn is you know, basically going into a second year?
I think it was Coach Peterson's decision, and we agree with it. You know, Trayvon played a bunch of reps for us last year, a bunch of plays, and the work he's put in, we know when he leaves here, he'll continue to work. So we're happy where he's at.
Is he the main reason you feel confident that you'll be able to affect the quarterback more this year than last?
Not the main reason, but he's one of the big reasons. The main reason is because we got guys that are out there working and have gotten better. They will continue to get better, and we'll put them in position to be able to get after the quarterback. And the growth they've achieved so far, we'll just continue to see that go.
Tyson held his camp on Saturday, had like 300 kids there, seemed to really enjoy it. I know on the field he's shown us a lot, but off the field, what type of guy is he?
That's another one. I know I'm standing up here talking about a bunch of guys that have leadership, but he's a guy, typically when you're a corner and you're a young corner and you have a safety room the way we have it with guys back there that have played, that Jenkins has a strong voice, he's a guy that you can see him come out of his shell a little bit. He's a guy that guys look to. He's a player, and he's able to step up now, and he can kind of talk to the young corners about how to do this, and even talk to the safeties about how they're supposed to be on top of him at times. So it's just different ways, and he's a guy that when you look at him, you know the skill set he has. He'll just continue to get better, and we see the progress in him.
He's a young guy himself. Is that normal for him going into his third year to be able to pass on knowledge and information to some of the guys that are fighting for spots?
That's the thing about him, being able to play as much as he has early on in his career, that's just going to help him because you're thrown into it, and he's had his success, and he's able to, you know, help the young guys out, even though they might not have the same ability or the same success so far, but he's able to go through those things that they're going through right now.
Corners sometimes get the reputation for being divas, especially when they're younger and they do have that, you know, street cred because they're playing immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think Tyson just has not been that, and Darius doesn't have that personality either?
I think when you go back and you look at those guys, when you talk about corners that are divas, those guys typically don't like to tackle. We have guys that will throw it in there, and Tyson is a guy, he's kind of like his coach a little bit, like Deshae. Deshae was a gritty, hard-working guy that's going to give you everything you got, and those guys are kind of resembling their coach right now. And Deshae does a good job with letting them understand that, yeah, you're corners, but you're also helping us in the run game as well.
Mike, obviously you're worried about the defense, but you get to see this offense go every day too. How much will what you guys have on the offensive side keep coordinators up at night?
We talk about iron sharpens iron, and around here we try to give them looks, and they present plenty of problems for us also. And the weapons they have on the other side, we're expecting big things, and right now I'm looking forward to getting to training camp and finding a way to try to slow them down. And then in the season, being able to stand on the sideline and watch them go up and down the field.
Foye was here yesterday watching all the guys. You gotta like when your middle linebacker is here when he probably doesn't have to be.
Well, he's not supposed to be. That's the first thing. I think I told you guys last year that his nickname, we call him James Brown, the hardest working man in show business. And that just continues. He sat in every meeting. So I told him yesterday, I was like, you might want to come up here and do the installation. You know it, so why don't you talk? He's like, no, you go ahead and do it. So I ended up doing it, and then I see him today, he's back in there. But it just shows the type of guy, because Coach Bob, Coach Tony, they're able to reach the players, but when you have another player that understands and cares about his teammates enough to, on his downtime, to be here, and any question they have that they might not be able to get to one of us, being able to get to him, that just shows the type of leader he is. Now, I'd like to see him gone and getting away and getting refreshed, but he's here, and we love seeing him around there, and hopefully he doesn't put on cleats today.
That's got to help set the standard that you want with the defense, right? When you've got a guy like that on his downtime, you don't really want him here. He's in there. You know he knows everything.
It's funny because when you're a good team, your best players are your hardest working players. And you look around on this team and you look at our best players, they're the hardest working players. So that's a reason why we're able to do some of the things we're able to do.
How important has Bob Sutton been for you these past couple of years? I mean, last year, obviously, your first year as a defense coordinator, and then obviously this year.
Sut's been a sounding board. He's, I took the job and he was here, and we built a relationship where if I have a question or I have a thought, I can run it by him and he'll bring things to my attention. That's a good thing about our staff, because most of the people I've worked with them before, so they understand me and they kind of know my vision. But when I come with something that's different, I'm able to shoot it off different guys. Deshae has great types of coverage that he wants to do that I might not be accustomed to. And then Buck will come with a different front, and Rory and Bill. It just goes on and on. Tony and Coach Sut. We're in there and we talk a lot, and the majority of the time I'm just bouncing things off to see the look on their face, see what might stick, what might go across well, and then I'll go back in and bring it to them a different way, and then we get together and find out what we're going to do, and we go out there and make it work.
You got to get out to practice. So one more. If anyone has one. All good?
Good.
Thanks, Mike. Coach. All right. What about the